Hello everyone, welcome one and all to ShockCast Episode 3. I'm your host Luke and Taldy. We're brought to you by Dual Shockers. And today we've got with us the classics. Who are you guys? Chris, we're going to go first with you. What are you doing here? Third podcast in a row.
No one can stop me. I will be here forever.
No, you got to do something on the site before you can be on the podcast. Also with us today is the mighty Ryan Meitzler. Back again.
I've only got a 66% attendance rate so far on the podcast. So, although, are we counting the episode 0? Does that count or no? That's
no one
canon.
knows about episode 0. Episode 0 is a complete secret.
Oh, okay.
We're gonna show it off.
That's like the ground zeros of the podcast.
Right.
So.
When we get super successful eventually, that is when we're gonna show off what that was. But yes, there was an episode 0. We do not talk about episode 0. All right. So last week you weren't here. We said there was a reason behind that. I think we said you were fired. We said you were mauled by a bear. What's the real reason you weren't here last week? Ryan. Are you talking? Can I not hear you?
I can't hear Ryan. Oh no, everything's falling apart.
No, everything's fine. We just can't hear Ryan. No one wanted to listen to him anyway. This is, of course, the second episode. There we go.
Sorry, my connection's kind of slowing down a little bit, so sorry about that.
Okay, so where were you last week? We said you were mauled by a bear.
Oh, no, I had a work thing I had to go to, so unfortunately I was out for last week.
Dual Shockers work or other?
No, work, real life work.
All right. Of course, we do Dual Shockers. Most of us, not all of us, but most of us do Dual Shockers as something else alongside our normal workday stuff. I'm a law student currently, though graduating in a week. Chris, no one really cares what you do. You're not even supposed to be here.
I mean, I've taken over Ryan's spot on the layout in case the chat has noticed.
Oh
so
my god. Yes, you have.
I have become sentient and I will not be stopped.
All right, well, we will fix that in the future. Maybe before the end of the podcast. But yes, that is something wrong. All right, so today, of course, the topic of discussion, we're going to get to it later, is going to be PAX East because Ryan was at PAX. He couldn't be here last week. And we're also going to be talking about leaks. There was a very big leak, and we're going to get to it. Trust me. But we're going to start off by saying that we have Black Desert codes to give away. Of course, if you're listening to this on MP3 or podcast services or wherever you're listening to it, you're doing it wrong. The right way to come on here is at twitch.tv/DualShockersLive at 8:30 every Wednesday. We do giveaways. We've done a giveaway every week, so hopefully this is just a permanent feature. We will always have something to give out. But today we got Black Desert, which is a PC game that I've never played, but everyone on our team loves it. We have 7-day trial codes, I believe. So if you want one, let us know in the chat. Whisper at one of us. So that's going to be Dual Shockers Live. And what are your guys' Twitch names?
It's just my name.
All right.
Mine is Mr. Moxie Mance. We made it simple for you guys.
Right.
Yeah.
Later on, we're giving out multiple copies of Corpse Party. And we're going to talk Corpse Party. A review went live. Super creepy game. And we're going to talk about it. But that's not right now. If you want Black Desert at any point, we literally have hundreds of codes. So let us know or email us at lewis@dualshockers.com and we'll give it to you. All right, so now that that's out of the way and there's an airplane in the background, let's talk news. News, first of all, today is May 4th.
May the 4th be with you.
There it is. I was waiting for it. Someone's got to say it eventually. All right, so I've never seen Star Wars.
Well,
I'm getting that out.
Podcast over. We're done. All right, we're
fired already.
Well, Giuseppe's not here, so
All right.
You know what? I'm gonna just put this in the chat right now. I'm doing this for Giuseppe.
Okay. So yeah, I've never
the
seen
Italian,
Star Wars.
yeah.
I know I need to have my my geek card rescinded. But really all I do is video games. So tell me about this Star Wars. Why is this a big day?
It's a, in case you don't know, it is a very popular film series. There just happened to be a new movie that came out a couple months ago. And May the 4th Be With You is a celebration of all things wonderful from a galaxy far, far away.
Okay. Is there a video game that I could latch onto, seeing how I only latch onto video game things?
There are many, in fact. Shall we start with the big news of
We
the day
should.
that actually just happened today?
That was
That
my
was
segue.
needed. Okay, I was just making sure. So big news today coming out of EA, which is they announced they're working with Respawn Entertainment, which are the developers of Titanfall, and they are going to be working on a new third-person Star Wars game, as far as I know. So I'm assuming action adventure, something along those lines. I think is what I heard, but I know definitely third person.
Right. Yeah, I heard third-person adventure, at least so far. All right, so we know very little about it. It's Respawn, so we know that the people behind Titanfall. We know Stig Asmussen. I think that's how you say his name. Very difficult name.
I believe so. Yeah.
He was the one of the lead directors, if not the main director, behind. I put GOW 3. I'm going with God of War 3 because Gears doesn't make sense. And so he worked at Sony Santa Monica. And yeah, he's going to be the lead on this. He since left after that canceled project that we still don't really know about. You guys excited?
I think it's pretty. I think the most exciting thing is the prospect that Respawn's working on it, which is interesting. That especially coming from their background behind Titanfall, we could see something cool come out of it.
Right.
I'm personally putting my hope behind a new Rogue Squadron game because I've wanted that for years. So that's what I'm hoping. But yeah, I think I'm not sure the whole third person thing because we also know that Visceral Games is still working on that project with Amy Hennig that they had EA had announced before, but they haven't really given too much more detail. So that's kind of what I thought was like, well, I don't know because they're already working on something that sounds kind of similar to this, but hopefully, I'm assuming they're probably going to do something in a different direction, but we'll have to wait and see where that kind of goes.
I'm gonna call it now. This is going to be a third-person adventure game where you play as nothing but a chicken walker, and you are. It's the newest 3D platformer.
All right.
You wouldn't be hoping for an Ewok game?
No. Let's just shut that. No.
So, yeah, my mind, not knowing too much about the franchise, knowing space, knowing that they're talking third-person adventure, is there any chance that this is going to infringe into Mass Effect territory?
I don't know. I mean, it's all very vague right now. So, but I don't know. Like, I kind of feel like with their background in Titanfall, like they had to pick that for a specific reason. So maybe they are focusing on something that might be a little bit more vehicular based, or
Right.
Along those lines. Because we kind of saw a little bit of that with Battlefront, the most recent game, where there are some like you can use some vehicles and all that. But I don't know. Like, I guess it'll be interesting to see because I feel like the Visceral Games, title will probably be a little bit more something like, people have said like Uncharted in space. So it'll be something that's a little bit more of like an action adventure. So, maybe this might take it in a different direction, but
Right.
at least I hope so.
Yeah, I would imagine they have to depart somewhere, and I think Mass Effect, where's its influences, anything in space is going to be Star Wars influenced, of course.
Oh, for
but
sure.
Mass
Yeah.
Effect definitely lays its influences pretty bare, and they're going to have to find a way to make this different.
Yeah.
All right, so next on the list, Dishonored 2. That's coming in November, right?
Yeah, it is. I'm sorry. I'm really excited. I like Dishonored a lot.
Yeah, I know you're the Dishonored guy.
I do
let me
like
hear it.
Dishonored. Yeah. So yeah, Dishonored 2, Bethesda announced it'll officially be releasing November 11th this year for PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to be showing more of it at E3 this year. So I'm assuming. So we first saw it last year at E3 2015. They had that like first initial like teaser trailer. So I don't know if they said specifically what they're showing, but I'm hoping gameplay. I mean, they feel like they kind of have to with the game coming out so soon.
Right. Yeah.
And then they also gave Game Informer had revealed they have the game like on their cover for I believe next month. They revealed some of the voice casts, and it has a pretty stacked voice cast. So basically, they announced the lead characters will be played by. Let me double check the names really quick. I think it's Stephen Russell and Erica Luttrell are going to be playing Corvo Dafoe and Emily Caldwin, who are the two lead characters.
Right.
So Stephen was known as he played the main character, the original thief, which is interesting because he didn't play the lead character in the rebooted Thief from a couple years ago, and he's doing it for Dishonored, which is basically more or less a new, like, sort of modern Thief game. So it's interesting that he's doing it here, but not for the rebooted one. And then Erica Littrell also did voices for Fallout 4.
Right.
But anyway, to quickly go down the list of the new cast members joining, there's Vincent D'Onofrio from Marvel's Daredevil, Rosario Dawson, who was also in Daredevil, Pedro Pascal from Game of Thrones and Narcos. You've got Sam Rockwell from Moon, Jamie Hector, who's from The Wire, and then Robin Lord Taylor from Gotham. So it's a pretty stacked cast. There's a lot of. I'm really excited, especially about Pedro Pascal and Vincent D'Onofrio. I think they're great, and Rosario Dawson too. So it's. I'm looking forward to it even more now.
Now, is this really their first video game? These actors? I mean, they sound, of course, very geek heavy, a lot of the stuff, but like...
I wouldn't know off the top of my head. That's something I'd probably have to check out, but...
Right.
But it's definitely a very, very talented... And, because even the first Dishonored, I know they had Lena Headey from Game of Thrones was also in that. I think there were one or two other pretty well-known actors that were also in the first game, so they're not, but it's definitely like, cool that they're getting some really like big-name talents to be part of the game.
Right. Now, Alan in the chat has been giving us shit saying we don't interact. That's not true. We're interacting. You guys just aren't talking to us. So, if you have any questions about these stories, of course we have a question section later on, but let us know. We will talk back to you. That's the whole reason we're on Twitch and not just doing only a podcast. All right, next news story. This one's Ratchet & Clank. Have you guys played Ratchet & Clank yet?
Unfortunately not. I need to get it. I'm a huge Ratchet & Clank fan, but I haven't been able to pick this one up just yet.
Right. I've played just small bits of it. I'm, of course, reviewing like a million games right now. But... that is on my to-do list. I've been watching my roommates, who aren't even video gamers to begin with, play it because they have fond memories of it, and they all seem to love it. The reason we're bringing it up is, of course, because Ratchet & Clank is now the fastest-selling game in the franchise's history. This comes according to Insomniac Games, the developers, via their Twitter. And for those who don't know, Ratchet & Clank has 14 titles in the franchise. It's been dating back for 14 years, so since 2002. Great news. I think, at least. And you know what? I can understand this because I remember the few days after it came out, it was impossible to find. Like, I went to GameStop, I went to Walmart, I went 2 towns over. Like, I hit every GameStop in the area in New York, New Jersey. That's actually quite a lot. That might be like 6 or 7. So,
yeah,
you couldn't find it anywhere. It was crazy.
Yeah, it is weird. I do feel like they're not, especially with, I don't know if maybe they're just not promoting as much because they have the movie out, which is basically kind of the promotion. So, but it is weird that, like, especially because the game's been getting, from most outlets I've been reading about it, it's getting really good reviews, and saying it's great. So it is kind of weird that, although I don't know, I mean, with the game also being available digitally, that I'm sure you could get it easily, but getting a physical copy seems like it's been pretty hard to find.
Right. But yeah, I hope that we go and see more. I think we're definitely going to see more, even though the movie's kind of flopping. And we won't talk about that too much, not video game related, kind of video game related. But the movie's flopping, but the game is really going off the charts. I think Insomniac is going to have more of a history continuously doing this game. All right, next on the list.
Yeah.
We have Microsoft, and they are going to be at E3. They're not one of the many companies dropping E3 this year. Who among us is the big Microsoft fan that can talk about this? Anyone?
It's not me anymore.
All right, I'll do it. So the press conference, clear your schedules, is going to be June 13 at 9:30 a.m. I'm guessing that's their time, our time, 12:30 p.m. And the Microsoft Fan Fest is coming back. So if you're in the area, look forward to that. I hear that that's a ton of fun.
Yeah, that's pretty Microsoft for the last several years has always been first, and that's like their slot. So this is pretty much the same as it's been in the last few years. The Fan Fest, I think, they just started last year, I believe. So that's kind of their own like little offsite thing
Right.
where Xbox fans can come and even if you're not attending E3, you can come and check out the games and do all that.
Right. Yeah. I've heard good things. I heard that that's kind of like their road to greatness, of course, all focused in at E3. And I was going to talk about it later, but I think now's a good time. Sony's also bringing back their Road to Greatness tour, which is their big 16-wheeler that they kind of just pack with people and stuff, and PlayStation 4 and PlayStation VR this year. They're only showing off Ratchet and Clank, Uncharted, MLB The Show 16, and a fourth title that's slipping my mind, but also PlayStation VR. So right now the list isn't complete. There's only like 10 locations officially announced, but if you go and look it up on Google, we don't have it right here. I think they're adding new stuff every week as soon as they're getting confirmations from the locations. But if you want to play PlayStation VR before it's officially announced, that's probably your best shot at doing it. All right, we're breezing through this news. Mighty Number 9. Holy crap, we got an official launch date for that. All right, so Mighty Number 9, who makes that? Inafune?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. So the kickstarted Inafune game, Mighty Number 9, has officially gone gold. Dated for June 21st, June 24th worldwide, so I think that's more Europe, Australia. But in North America and Asia at the moment, it's June 21st. Meanwhile, it's been 3 years since Mighty Number 9 finished its successful Kickstarter and has had a ton of delays, mostly because of multiplayer stuff. I think he's given a reason in the past. It was something about the code or something that they're using for the game is no longer being used, I think. And there was like an issue that they had to get resolved. Something like that. Anyway, this isn't to say that Mighty Number 9 is officially 100% gold or announced, because the Vita and 3DS versions still have unknown release dates. So we're getting the game, just not everywhere all at once. What do you guys think?
I'm excited.
It's coming out. That's the good news. So.
Yeah, it's not just dropping off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
I want to play it. As someone who never played like the original Mega Man games, and you can't talk to me, Luke, because you've never watched Star Wars. As someone who's never played the original Mega Man games, like it's kind of exciting for me to kind of give it a shot. They've always looked like a lot of fun. I've just never picked them up. I played Battle Network, but that'll probably make original Mega Man fans cry.
Right.
But I really want to get my hands on it.
How about you, Ryan? You looking forward to Mighty Number 9?
Sort of. I played it at my first E3 2 years ago. So it is just crazy that like the fact that I played it 2 years ago and it still isn't out. I just think that for me, Mighty Number 9, I feel like has always like kind of fed into my hesitance toward Kickstarter games in particular, because obviously like, Mighty Number 9 was kind of at the forefront of that. And so, but obviously now we've seen those kind of setbacks where it's like, well, every time it's gotten close to release, they've delayed it a little further, delayed it a little bit more, delayed it a little bit more. But I'm happy that at least the game's coming out now, and that people that have been patiently waiting for this game will finally get to play it soon.
Right. I'm going to go back into the comments, and if you have a comment about this, let us know. But Taz8080, and if I'm right, we're talking to DualShockers co-founder here, right?
Yep.
Yeah.
I don't know usernames. Is this Al?
You are correct, sir.
All right, so this is Al, DualShockers co-founder, says, it was supposed to be May. He's toying with my emotions. It's like a unicorn. I will never have it. Mega Man 2 is the truth. I'm going to beat you all for not being more excited about Mighty Number 9. So we can actually put the fired count up a bit. One more for everyone. Two for Chris.
All I have to say to Al is that I'm still waiting for Half-Life 3, so he can't really say anything. So.
But yeah, no, I'm very excited about Mighty Number 9. I grew up on Mega Man X. I know I'm a youngin', but Mega Man X was my first Mega Man game, and I loved the hell out of that. And if this even has half of the great mechanics that game had, then I'm all for it, no matter how much it's been delayed. I'm just happy to see it. The only issue I have is I don't want to play it on a PlayStation 4. That's not where I saw myself playing this. It always looked like a Vita game to me. I love my Vita. It's sitting behind me. I don't know if you guys can see it. It's sitting behind me with a nice coat of dust while I'm waiting to review something on it. But that's where I was hoping to review. That's just why I'm slightly miffed about this news. All right. So, next on the list, we have, and we have to bring this up. I think Giuseppe will fire us all if we don't bring it up. But there's news on Dead or Alive Extreme 3, which DualShockers covers extensively, and we always love positive news with it. Apparently, after the financial results, we found out that it has sold 190,000 copies, and that's only in Japan and the Asian market. So that's actually very, very good for them. So, throwing that out there.
Great. Awesome.
Yeah. Next on the list, we spoke about Doom earlier, and this is Doom related. John Romero had a Kickstarter. We didn't talk about it last week, but it's already gotten in the news twice, so we have to bring it up. The Kickstarter project was called Black Room. I don't know if that was the name of the game or if that was the code name, but John Romero, of course, one of the co-founders of id Software, one of the co-creators of Doom, very, very famous in the 90s. And he had a Kickstarter for this new game. They raised slightly over $130,000, I think $131,000. I don't know how much they were looking for. But after 5 days, it ended up being suspended. And the reason behind that, at least what he said, was because he wants to come up with a gameplay trailer or some actual gameplay footage before, launching a Kickstarter. My guess, of course, is he didn't think it would take off. Generally, when you start a Kickstarter, you know how it's going to go, I think, in the first few days, unless, by God's grace, something happens. So that's what ended up happening. I guess Kickstarter made him their bitch. Were you guys excited at all? Do you like John Romero?
I hadn't even looked into it, honestly. Like the only Kickstarter game I've really looked into and I need more than anything in the world is Yooka-Laylee.
Right. So apparently Fright Guy says 700,000 was the goal. That's actually not too off. For 5 days, I wouldn't have imagined that that he would have pulled out. Maybe he was aiming for high, because I know a lot of these Kickstarters aim low and then hope that they make it up in 3 times the amount in stretch goals.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, in the comments, Alana, is it Alana or Alan Aru? All right, so one of them thinks Ryan's cute.
Oh, thank you. It was
so apparently you should start streaming on your own, Ryan, and we'll leave you two alone. You guys can get your own Twitch stream. Anyway. Next on the list, we have footage of 1666 officially after many, many years. We've talked about it. I think we talked about it on the first podcast, but 1666 Amsterdam was a THQ gone Ubisoft canceled project that went dark after a lawsuit between the creator of Assassin's Creed and Ubisoft. There was creative differences, and it ended up being completely suspended. They initially announced it as, I believe, the next Assassin's Creed. That's what they thought it was going to be. And the footage, have you guys seen the footage at all? I would show it, but that would really just suck for anyone who's not on video.
No, I'm not really too familiar with the game, unfortunately. But I think I did see a little bit of some of the images, and I was like, I could see how people think that might be an Assassin's Creed. So,
right,
or at least an early predecessor to it. So,
yeah. But what the footage was 1666 Amsterdam. It was I think the London Fire. I don't know the official name of the event, but it was basically you were an evil character who had, I imagine, magic, black magic powers, could control animals, and you saw him causing mischievous conduct of sorts, dropping crates on people, other things. But we still don't know if anything's going to happen. At the moment, the creator of Assassin's Creed is working on another game right now. So even though he just won back his property rights for it, and that was in the news, we don't know for certain whether we're going to see this anytime in the future. So next on the list was Road to Greatness. We ended up talking about that. And the last part of our news this week, and we're going to get to other news when we get to the topic, when leaks and stuff. But the last one is Yves Guillemot and Ubisoft with Vivendi. Earlier this week, it was reported that Yves Guillemot, one of the Guillemot brothers who created Ubisoft, is still worried that there's going to be a hostile takeover from Vivendi. Of course, Vivendi has said that they have no intention of taking over Ubisoft, but they did so when buying another 5% interest in the company. For those who don't know, Vivendi is a media holding company, kind of think French's Fox News, maybe. Or not Fox News, French's Fox. And
you mean they're Viacom?
Yeah, maybe they're Viacom. That might be closer. But they were the company, the parent company that owned Activision and Blizzard for some time. And that was the period of years where we may remember a consistent focus on Guitar Hero and Call of Duty. And those were really the only games they were pumping out, or World of Warcraft expansions. Creatively, they may have been the people to kill Crash Bandicoot. So, of course, Yves Guillemot is very upset about this. He says that he's basically holding his creative directors hostage. Because if Vivendi ends up buying them, then these creators are absolutely going to leave. And that is hopefully going to stay their takeover attempts. So, question for you guys. Do you care about Ubisoft? Do you think that they are... a loaded question. Do you care about Ubisoft enough? Like, do you think that they have enough of a say in the industry, in artistic direction, that they should feel they need to be protected?
I think every company has a right to feel like some kind of protection. But even though they had that nice section where they're like, oh, we're only showing what they were only doing Guitar Hero. Now they're only doing Assassin's Creed. So it's like they kind of flip flop. And as Al has been pointing out in our chat, they need to fix the division first.
Right.
And then I'll start caring more for them.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's definitely something to be said that they do a lot of the same games, though there may be more of a departure from that. We've seen The Division, which they need to fix, obviously, but is a departure. They're not doing Assassin's Creed this year. They've went and produced a bunch of smaller titles that probably wouldn't have been produced under other leadership, like Grow Home or Child of Light. Or were they the ones who made Valiant Hearts? I believe so.
Yeah, they did too. Yeah,
that was them.
Right. So there is truth. If I had to think of one studio, one like huge video game studio, and we only got a few of those. We got your Activisions, your EAs, your Ubisofts, and that's really your studios that aren't main publishers that also make the systems. I would always have pegged them as the more creative one. So yeah, I'm a fan, but apparently we have a lot of people in the comments who do not like Ubisoft, including Al,
especially Al.
Especially Al. I blame The Division for that though. They're not really doing too well. All right, so next on the list we've got listeners' questions. We're done with the news. So if you have a question, we didn't have any going into this. If you have a question, let us know right now in the stream. And if you want to let us know for the future, if you want us to get a question on next week, just email us at lewis@dualshockers.com. Hopefully we'll get ShockCast at dualshockers.com going. But we're still working on that. We're only 3 episodes, and give us time, people. So first comment we have from Stacy Tentoes. Sorry about your 10 toes. How long have you been doing the stream? So we've been doing, I don't know if that's a question for today or overall, but we've been doing this for 3 weeks. And Yeah, we've been doing this for 3 weeks, and we've been doing this one specifically for 30 minutes. Al says, why are your Twitter handles backwards? That's because
That's
I'm
all my
really
fault.
bad. I'm really bad at OBS.
I've taken over, Al. Don't let him fool you. I'll be everywhere. You can't stop me.
Right. But yeah, so meanwhile, we'll let the questions go in. We'll start talking topic of the show. Topic of the show is PAX East 2016. We didn't get to talk about it last week, and now it's 2 weeks old.
Woot woot.
But Ryan has some acute knowledge into this and into a bunch of games that I think Dual Shockers is one of the few sites to give a ton of coverage to. So, let's talk hands-on previews from PAX East. We've been doing a bunch of these. I still don't even think you're done with all of them. But what was your favorite game, Ryan?
So for me, so I guess just to briefly, for those that don't know, so I went to PAX East 2 weeks ago, which is the Penny Arcade Expo East in Boston, Massachusetts. It's been going for 7 years now, of which I've been to every single one. So PAX East is kind of close to me. Like I that was like my first gaming convention. So I pretty much I'll be really sad when I miss a PAX East because I love PAX East.
Right.
So basically, gaming convention. There's tons of different games there. This was probably the busiest PAX East I've ever been to. Because on the there were Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo were all there, which has never happened before. So that's really cool. That because generally PAX East is a smaller show. It's definitely not on the scale of like E3 or something like that. But since it is an all gaming convention, there's still a ton of stuff there to explore. And also not just video games, but also tabletop, card games, like pretty much anything with the word game in it, you will find there. So I basically got to play I tried about like 10 games or so that I had appointments for, and then I also just kind of went around and explored and got to check out some things. So probably my favorite things were Outlast 2 and Pyre. So for those that don't know, Outlast 2 is a sequel to the horror game Outlast. I think Outlast 2 was my favorite because I love the first game, but also because Outlast 2 had a really cool booth. So basically, it was this little mini like church that you went into, and the booths that you played in were confessional booths. Because the game basically has this sort of like religious theme where it's about this cult that you're kind of investigating, and there's all these kind of supernatural elements. So you go into this confessional booth, pretty much in the perfect state that you want to play a horror game with the lights out. It was like all dark, and you had headphones on. And it was funny because as I was playing, I could actually hear people in the other booths occasionally scream or shout obscenities, which was terrifying but great. So as I was playing, I would just all of a sudden hear someone be like, "Oh shit!" and like, "Holy crap!" And it was really funny. But basically, so the game was really it was very scary. It was very fun to get to check out. Not too much different from the first game in terms of the mechanics and the controls and stuff. So if you played the first game, you'll kind of know what to expect. But in terms of the scares, like it was only a 15 or like 20-minute demo around there, but I felt like I definitely got a good sense of what you're going to play in the game, especially because there's like toward the end of the demo, you basically go into this cornfield where you get chased by these guys and they have flashlights. And I see Chris shaking his head. He's like, nope, not doing it. It's like, yeah, basically it's crazy because there was a part where it's like I saw the guys with the flashlights coming towards me and there happened to be a barrel nearby. So you basically, I had to jump into the barrel and you can look out the holes of the barrel. And so you're like trying to like peek around and not get like killed by one of them. So I'm definitely looking forward to seeing more of the game. It looks awesome, and it should be coming out at the end of the year.
Right.
So the other one that was my favorite was Pyre, which is the new game from Supergiant Games, the developers that made Bastion and Transistor, which I both love. They're both great games. So Pyre is interesting because it's like if you played Bastion or Transistor, this is very different. It kind of looks similar that it's a sort of isometric, like you control characters on a big playing field type thing. But this was almost like a RPG sports game, which was really weird when I first started playing it. But it was once I kind of got the hang of it, it was very interesting. It's basically kind of you play as this band of exiled sorcerers, and you go around and you commit these. You basically go into these things called rites, where you're facing another team of sorcerers, and you basically get this like glowing orb in the middle that you're trying to like dunk into the person's pyres or the other team's pyres. So you kind of have to switch around, and you get three different characters that each are kind of differently. Different abilities. So one is kind of small and fast. The other is more of like a all-purpose, like kind of mid-range guy. And then another guy who's your kind of tank, who's very powerful, but he's very slow. So
Right.
the goal of the game is basically you're trying to move these characters around on the board and throw the ball to them and kind of position them so that way you can take out the enemy's pyres. So it's almost as if it's like you took Hearthstone, Rocket League, and you made it into like an RPG type thing. Is kind of the it's hard to describe, but if you kind of look at gameplay videos and trailers for the game, you can kind of see what it's very cool. It's very different
Now,
from what they've done.
my question is there, like, you're describing it almost like a sport. Is there like story? You know, or is it just
There is, yeah.
okay?
Yeah, there is very much. The other kind of component to it is that it has in between the rights. There's kind of almost like if you play Banner Saga, you'll be very familiar with this, where there's kind of this wagon that moves between different areas, and kind of in those sections you kind of get the story and the character development parts. Or Oregon Trail, it's very similar to that type of feeling, where it's like in between the rights you get to sort of learn more about your characters and do all that.
Right. In the comments, we have Taz said Rocket Hearth League.
It's basically as like that's like the closest I could think of to it.
That's amazing. Odge Dre also in the comments says that's amazing. I think that's amazing. That's like literally every game I like.
Yeah, that's like the closest comparison I can come up to it, but it's very cool and unique.
Yeah. Okay, so what else? I mean, those were, of course, big games. Those are, if we're talking Super Giant, we're talking Outlast. Those are games everyone's heard of. What are more ones that might be in the weeds?
Mm-hmm. I guess just really quickly, I guess before I go into that, I'll talk really quick about Lawbreakers, because that's also kind of one of the big ones too. Yeah. So Lawbreakers, if you don't know, is coming from Boss Key Productions, which is headed by Cliff Bleszinski, the creator of Gears of War. So I got to play some Lawbreakers, and it was cool. It's a very sort of fast-paced, like sort of more of a twitchy, like almost like a classic PC era, like a classic PC era multiplayer game, where basically you have different characters that have like a team-based sort of shooter, where you get to play different classes of characters that each have a different ability. So for example, and the kind of hook of it is that it has these abilities where there are like low gravity areas in the map where you can kind of bend gravity and move in different ways. So it was cool. It was definitely it was fun to check out. I did surprisingly well. Like I was expecting to get my ass handed to me, but I actually did very well in my match that I played. So I had a good time. But yeah, so it's like there's definitely kind of like what we're seeing with, I guess we'll talk about a little bit later with like Battleborn and Overwatch and that type of thing, where it's very much about kind of picking a character or a class and then kind of kind of mastering it and what each of them can do. So for example, the character I kind of clung on to was the assassin, who's more like a close ranged character. She actually doesn't start out with a gun. She gets these two knives that she could use, but she also has these other abilities she can use, like she has like kind of a grappling hook type thing, which was awesome, that I could like grapple onto a wall and basically sling her Spider-Man style like onto walls. And so I would kind of have to learn to manipulate the environment and be like, okay, most of the time if I ran toward a person, I would just get shot and die really easily. But if I used the grappling hook to kind of latch onto a wall, I could like zip behind someone, and then she has this frenzy attack where basically she could just like slash and do this. And so yeah, that was my experience with Lawbreakers, just as a brief thing. It's very cool. I believe that's going to be coming later this year at some form. I believe there's like a beta coming this summer. PAX East is kind of known for having a lot of smaller indie games, so I did get to check out a bunch of them. I'll just kind of go through these quickly. I played Night in the Woods, which is coming from studio Infinite Fall. And if you haven't seen that, it's a kind of cool exploration-based adventure game. My preview of it actually just went up today, so you can go read about that. Okay. The coolest thing is it's got this awesome art style where I kind of describe it almost as like a graphic novel, like an indie graphic novel come to life. It's got and seeing it in motion especially is really cool, because it has a lot of really cool animation and detail in it. I also got to play another one called Thimbleweed Park, which is from Ron Gilbert, the creator of Monkey Island. So for those of you that played a lot of classic adventure games, you'll definitely feel at home with this one. And it's cool. When you look at it, it looks almost like Twin Peaks or X-Files, the game, because it has a lot of that inspiration from it. So that was another cool one I got to check out. And then a couple other smaller things I got to try out. Divinity Original Sin 2. Which is like kind of a cooperative RPG game where you get to do. So I got to do some competitive multiplayer in that, where basically it was you get to move your characters around in almost like a strategy RPG type style. So I got to play against the developer who handed my ass to me. I got beaten pretty easily in that demo.
That just seems unfair, though. Developer
Yeah,
matchup.
it was literally just funny because literally my first turn I made a misstep and he's like, "Oh, well now this will happen," and he just like lit my character on fire and I was just like, well, yeah. So anyway, yeah, we can go. I guess go on if you guys have any other questions about stuff I played at PAX.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Did we talk? I don't know if I just missed it. Did we talk We Happy Few? That's one that really stands out for me.
Not yet, no. So I actually I played that game. So We Happy Few, if those don't know, it's coming from the studio called Compulsion Games. They also made the game Contrast a couple years ago. It was a PS3 launch or PS4 launch title. And so We Happy Few is a survival game. So I guess kind of in the vein of something like Rust or DayZ or something along those lines. But it takes place in this dystopian 1960s sort of London area. It's called Wellington Wells.
Mm-hmm.
And so the idea of it is that you're this person that's trying to escape Wellington Wells, and they have these sort of weird, crazy citizens that are basically watching you all the time. And so it's a really interesting idea because you kind of have to balance conforming and not pissing off the citizens, so not stealing from them and stuff like that. But at the same time, you have to steal from them because you have to get food, you have to get water, you have to get weapons, supplies that basically are very difficult to come by without either stealing from them or having to find ways to sneak around. So it's interesting. When I played the game last year for the first time at PAX when it was announced. So I got to play it this year, and so I think it was interesting kind of seeing the game, how it developed over a year since I first played it, and especially because there's definitely so much more they added, I feel like, since I last played it, where there is definitely, it's got those survival aspects, so you're going to be crafting, gathering supplies and resources and all that. But there is also a lot of story stuff I'm seeing. Like I did, without giving too much away, like there are definitely characters you come across where you'll have to like complete quests and get items for, and so there is going to be, I think, a loose narrative behind it for sure.
Right.
But I really like it, and the style especially is really cool because it's just such a weird, like, cool, area to explore. Very, very BioShock. If you've ever, like it does have that kind of feel where it's like this whole society that's kind of watching you at every turn.
Yeah, from what it looked like, it always looked like a mix of maybe BioShock meets Clockwork Orange, maybe. I don't know. It's very strange looking in a great way.
It is, yeah.
Yeah.
In a great way, yeah, for sure. When I talked to the developers last year, they totally mentioned like Clockwork Orange, Brave New World, 1984. Like those were all their kind of inspirations for the game, which was, definitely got my interest.
Okay. So, of them all, what do you think was your favorite?
I'd probably still say Outlast 2 and Pyre were definitely the ones that I enjoyed the most. But everything I played, I really had no complaints against. Like they were all very different. Because I guess some of the other things, like I'll just really quickly, I played like The Culling. I played Let It Die, which I also got to do an interview with Suda51, which was awesome. He was as awesome as I was expecting him to be. Yeah, but I guess I got to play a little bit of everything, like some indie stuff, horror games, RPGs, survival games. So I definitely got a nice variety. And like even though I probably played like a ton of games, like there's still way more that I didn't even get to try out because there's just so much there.
Right. Okay, so we're gonna move on from PAX East. We've been doing a lot of PAX talk. Now, those who follow the news regularly, follow Dual Shockers and our news coverage regularly, you know that we've missed a big thing in our news, and that's Call of Duty. There was huge leaks and huge news this week. Ryan, I know you've just been talking for a lot, but can you tell us exactly what's been happening?
So there is this small game that some might not know. It's called Call of Duty. Small indie game. But basically, what happened was we officially got the reveal of Call of Duty Infinite Warfare this week. But for about a week or so, we had already known about it because there were a series of leaks that sort of happened. Where basically PlayStation Store, they had revealed the name of the game as Infinite Warfare, and then also on on I believe it was Reddit that posted like one of those like Target reservation cards that showed the key artwork for the game, but also revealed a surprise, which was Call of Duty 4 Modern Warfare Remastered. So then Activision, they officially revealed the game this week, but they've also revealed that the Modern Warfare Remaster will only come with the sort of like the premium editions of the game, so you won't be able to buy it standalone at first.
Right.
I have a feeling they'll probably release it after a little while, like standalone. But for launch initially, you'll only be able to buy it with a premium edition of the game.
How do you feel about that?
Um, I think that the game itself looks okay. I'm kind of out of touch with Call of Duty
Yeah.
for the last couple of years, so I think that's more my thing. Is just that I haven't really played any of the games since Black Ops 2, so I've kind of fallen a little bit out of Call of Duty. I feel like the general consensus is people are more excited for the Modern Warfare remaster than they are for Infinite Warfare, which is kind of why I feel that they packed that in, is because they kind of want to help pad the sales of Infinite Warfare a little bit.
Hmm.
Because I think they know that people are starting to lose interest in the series, so they're gonna bundle the new game with this remaster of Modern Warfare. So
Right.
we'll see how that goes.
But yeah, what about you, Chris? You're the competitive shooter, I think, among us in video games, not just you going out and shooting things. But do you care about? Are you a Call of Duty person?
I am not a COD person. I fell out of love with COD after Modern Warfare 2, which was an amazing game, but then Battlefield kind of just became better, in my opinion. And as far as like what Ryan was saying, I agree. I think the series at this point is kind of I think it's kind of lost touch with what made Call of Duty Call of Duty.
Right.
And I think that's why they're bundling it in with one of the premium editions, because it's like, hey, let's get more money out of this game while we can, and they're definitely going to release it standalone. They wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't just do it to bundle it in there, and they'll probably price it higher than what they're pricing it with as like a bundle
Right.
price, you know?
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely.
because I think in order to get it, you have to get like the digital like one of the deluxe editions, which is I think $80. So you're already asking for at least $80 just to get access to the Modern Warfare remaster.
Now, do you think
Yeah.
that's going to stay? Do you think they're going to eventually just be like, oh, okay, you could buy it
I think
alone for 30 or 40?
I think easily. I think a couple months afterward, they're definitely going to release it standalone. I think they're just going to wait a little bit, like wait a couple months after Infinite Warfare comes out.
Right.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Okay, so the reason we're talking about this now and not in the news section, of course, is because there were leaks, and we spoke about this last week. We talked about the PlayStation Network having a bit of a leak itself, where they messed up with an advertisement or something, and it showed it, and then later on, it came out in a Target like place card, I think, that this Infinite Warfare was coming out. And yeah, leaks are just kind of a huge thing for the video game industry. Of course, at DualShockers, we bring you all the best leaks early. That's my plug right there. But we do talk a ton of leaks, and it's kind of just this cornerstone of the video game news industry. And it seems like it's happening more lately, possibly. And you had a conspiracy theory about this, Chris, that you mentioned last episode. I think it's time to bring it up again.
Yes, so everyone put on their tinfoil hats and spam the Illuminati in the chat for us, please. So I think it's honestly all controlled leaks at this point. I think they really want to hype up their sales and get people like super pumped. So it's like all of a sudden like, oh, look, Call of Duty Infinite Warfare showed up on the PSN marketplace for like 3 hours and then mysteriously disappeared. So it's definitely a controlled timed leak.
Right. Yeah, I think there's definitely something to be said about that. I think you can tell at times when leaks are true leaks. But I do think at this point now it's more there is a marketing strategy behind it, because very clearly they were able to dominate the news.
Mm-hmm.
So let's see. What else do we have? How do leaks affect the surprise? We cover all the leaks, of course. Do you guys, if you're interested in a game, do you look at this leaked content or do you just ignore it?
It depends. honestly. It depends how I feel on the game.
Hmm.
So, like, I think the perfect example is, in the true nerdiest of ways, when Pokemon X and Y was announced, and Nintendo, up until like 2 days before the game's actual release, did a great job at keeping like a control on the news flow. I had no idea about like the new Pokemon. So for me, it was the first time since like Gold and Silver I could go into a Pokemon game without the internet pretty much spoiling everything for me.
Right.
So I stuck with it. I did not look at any of the new forms that came out. I picked my starter based on its ugly second stage. So
Yeah.
it's like it to me it kind of it gave this nice refreshing feeling, you know? Like the
Hmm.
first time I saw Hawlucha, I freaked out like I was a 5-year-old.
Right.
Um, but there are certain games that like Destiny, I followed closer than anything to try and figure out as much as I could, you know?
Yeah.
And I got into the game super excited and felt almost like a mild expert at the time. So I think it just depends on the game to
Right.
how I approach the league.
Makes sense. How about you, Ryan?
I think I'd agree. Yeah, like I think for me the easy example is something like Fallout 4, where I was kind of surprised that for the most part like leaks were pretty kept to a minimum. I feel like for Fallout 4 up until the surprise announcement. Like there have been like people
Right.
knew it was going to happen and all that, but there wasn't anything specific other than like it was going to be set in Boston.
Right.
Um, but I think from I it's hard for me to say because I think most things I try not to like watch a lot of trailers. I try because I think especially in the internet age, it's like before you even see a movie or play a game or do anything like that, you pretty much know all about it because there are just so many trailers and TV spots and leaks and all that.
Right.
I think it's just a given that because of the age we live in, where social media and everything dominates so much that like everything leaks. Like it's pretty much anytime there's like, especially with we just saw with Final Fantasy last month, where the release date for that got leaked early because of course, like pretty much,
Right.
yeah.
And I mean, there's ton of legitimate places and news sources that we get leaks from. Like, leaks can be almost anything, but we find exophase listings. For instance, exophase, for those who don't
Hmm.
know, is a website that just kind of aggregates automatically all the trophies. So every once in a while, you'll find trophies pop up, even for games that aren't announced. And that's happened quite often. We find trademark listings, and there's really nothing that can be done about that because these studios need to, of course, trademark their games. Um,
Hmm.
and we find IMDb or LinkedIn listings of people's employment status. So there's really no way to avoid it, I think. But whenever I'm super interested in a game, like for Uncharted, I haven't been looking at stuff, and damn it, now I cannot look in the chat for the next like
I
two
know.
minutes because I just mentioned Uncharted, and I know that there's information about what may or may not happen. Um, so yeah. Anyway, that's leaks. What is the biggest leak that you can remember in recent history?
The biggest leak.
I think for me, my most memorable is actually Dishonored 2 last year.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if people know. I think it was like it was something with Bethesda. They were doing some kind of pre E3 stream or something, and they had two of the guys from Arcane Studios were just casually talking in the background, but didn't realize that a microphone was on, like streaming to the Twitch stream. So
Yeah.
literally, they were like blah 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 blah, Dishonored 2, blah 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 blah. And they actually had someone went on and said, hey guys, there's a microphone that's on, and they're like, no, it's not. And he's like, I'm serious. And so that was like, that was probably the funniest one I could think of was the whole
Right.
Dishonored 2 thing. Because I think even Bethesda afterward, they tweeted after that stream because they knew people heard about it, and they were like, "Oh, well, stay tuned to E3 for the real thing" or something along those
Oh my
lines.
god.
So that's the one I could think of that was
Yeah.
like most memorable.
Uh, I would say it's not really the biggest leak, but the most memorable like thing for me was I'll never forget. I think it was Pokemon Black and White when it came out. Nintendo got really mad at the website Cerebi.net and like removed every picture they had of the game and sent them a cease and desist letter.
Holy shit.
Yeah, they were not happy.
Right.
Yeah.
Dallo Lance R Lance Dallo says, I think the biggest leak for me was Bloodborne getting leaked as Project Beast. Yeah, I remember seeing that stuff, and that was great.
Yeah, it seems like it was like 8 years ago that it was like it was shown as Project
so
Beast.
long
Yeah,
ago.
yeah.
The one that I remembered the most was the Fallout 4 ones. Maybe because it's so recent, but also how funny it was that it happened in the way it did. Not just speaking about the script being kind of leaked, which we all found out later on was absolutely correct, and most of the stuff still stayed in there. But
Yeah.
I thought that it was super funny when they found out that people from Bethesda were surveying the land, like they were going around measuring buildings and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
But I thought that was really interesting.
Well, I think I remember too with Fallout that there was a rumor for a while that the game was going to be called Fallout Shadow of Boston. I was like, please don't let it be that. That's such a terrible title. So I was just like, and then when they just called it Fallout 4, I was like, okay, good. Just like don't give it a stupid title like that.
Right.
I remember when there was all those like fake sites going up with countdowns for the new Fallout game.
Oh my god, yeah. There's
the biggest
a ton of them.
teases in the world. Ugh.
Some of them were actually really well made too, like, ARGs and stuff that were long, and people were solving puzzles and getting like ominous emails.
Yeah.
And yeah, most of them turned out to be nothing. All right, so
Yeah.
we had a great listener question. This one comes from Mick.N. Says, if they release a BioShock remaster collection for PS4 and Xbox One, would you guys play it?
I mean, it seems like that's going to happen because there have been plenty of leaks, speaking of which, that have suggested that there's a BioShock remaster collection. I love the BioShock games, especially 1 and Infinite. 2, I'm okay on. It's not the best one. But I don't know. It's hard because like I own all the games on PC, so I feel like if I had that itch, I would probably just go back and replay them there. So, but I think if I only had a PS4 and Xbox One, I'd probably say yes because the original BioShock was actually one of the first 360 games that I bought, and so that I think especially that game has like a really I have a big attachment to because that was really the first game I felt like I was like, holy crap, I'm in the next generation, and
Right.
Especially because it's just like easily like up there with like some of my favorite games, so probably yes.
Right.
So I'm about to make the chat very mad. So
Oh, no.
BioShock. BioShock was the first game I ever played where I ever got the sensation. I don't understand why. I was playing it, and as I'm playing it, I'm like, man, this is a really good game. This is a really well-made game, but I'm not having fun.
Fired.
I just kind of stopped playing it.
Fired. Right now. So I think it's 3 or 4-1 on each of us. But, so you're not interested. Is this all of them, or is it the first one, or is it the last one? Which one?
It was the first BioShock, like the best one out of the series by almost
easily.
everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just couldn't get into it, man. I don't know what it was. Like I said, it was a great game. I was playing it. I was like, man, this is really cool. I just don't like it.
Right. Yeah, that is that's my favorite game ever that you're talking about.
You're welcome.
Think, literally. So yeah, of course I would play it. I might only play the first one because I liked BioShock Infinite, but it wasn't as much for me. I don't think it was nearly as good, and I think a lot of the plot points toward the end, I'm not going to go into spoilers for Infinite. If you haven't played it, it's been years. So I don't know why I'm even doing this. But if you go into BioShock Infinite and you get to the ending, I think that does actually ruin some of the fun or the mystique or the story of the original BioShock. But I
think that I don't know, like I guess I didn't really know that was going to happen in Infinite. I guess again without spoilers. So, and I don't know if you could really like I do feel like in order to appreciate Infinite, you kind of have to play the first one.
Yeah.
I would like to point out that Randy619 in the chat is with me. And there's another not BioShock lover out there, so I'm not alone.
No.
So I love you, Randy.
I love Randy. I don't love you. You can get out, Chris. All right, one more question from Randy, actually. When are you guys expecting the new Elder Scrolls? With Fallout just out, what do you guys think? How long until you see it?
I jokingly said 2025, but I don't, because Bethesda. I don't think it'll be that long. I feel like maybe in another year or two we might hear about it. Like we'll get the trailer that's literally the logo with like epic music behind it, and then so we'll honored they like now that's kind of become a franchise, but maybe
Right.
I would like to see I think a new IP come from them too.
Right. And while they've been raking it in like crazy for Fallout, I think that the engine, they do have a new engine.
Yeah.
I love the Elder Scrolls game, so I really want it.
I think Bethesda needs a new tentpole game. I think we might actually be waiting a little longer on this.
It does feel like they need a new IP, I think, coming in. Although I mean Dishonored, they like now that's kind of become a franchise, but maybe
Right.
I would like to see I think a new IP come from them too.
Right. And while they've been raking it in like crazy for Fallout, I think that the engine, they do have a new engine, but I think the engine and the style and the format of those games are showing their age. And I
For
think
sure,
that
yeah.
they need to go in and do some really heavy reconsidering about UI and quality of life improvements to any of their major franchises. But yeah, so that's what I'm feeling. That's what I think. I think that 2025 is definitely off, but I don't think by too much. I think that we might be seeing it around yeah, like 2022, 2020. All
Yeah.
right. We're gonna end the questions there. Of course, if you have more questions and there's something really great, let us know. If you are listening to this by MP3 or podcast, you can email us new questions at lewis@dualshockers.com, and we will make sure to answer them. Now, we're going into a new section, and this is going to be right before 8-Bit Idiot. It's going to be a review roundup. We go into the games that we're playing, but we don't really have a section for games that we just completed. And Dual Shockers does push a ton of reviews just about every day for the most part. And I know that because I have to edit every single one of them. But so we're going to talk about a game that we just played and hopefully get questions from the community. If not, we'll just talk about it. But a game I just played was Corpse Party for PC. And part of the reason I'm bringing this up, of course, if you noticed the title header, and you're here on Twitch, we do have Corpse Party codes to give away. We have 3 of them, actually, thanks to the very generous people over at Nipponichi Software America. But Corpse Party is a 8-bit style visual novel. It was probably one of the first on the scene that at least people people in the West can recognize. But it was around from 1996 or 1998, remastered in 2008 for the PSP, and now re-released the original 2008 version for PC and eventually on Nintendo 3DS. And this is a fucked up game. In like a great way. I ended up giving it a good score. It got a 7.5. It's very good. And the reason it's only a 7.5 is if you're talking about games, visual novel 8-bit horror games with anime girls speaking in Japan the entire time is really as niche as it gets. So yeah, it was definitely weird, but like I didn't know an 8-bit game could really, or 16-bit more likely, but 16-bit game could really scare the shit out of me that much. And it's because of the really compelling storyline behind it, if I'm being honest. Like, really one of the best well-written horror stories. Going over it really, really quickly, it's about a group of friends who mess up this charm. They're trying to stay friends forever, and they end up warping to this, like, demolished school where everyone had committed suicide. Not everyone, a fair amount of people had died. And they're looking for a way out. And yeah, you follow them, and there's like
Sounds super uplifting and fun.
yeah, it's not, but if you're just looking for a thrill or even for just a good story, that's really what this game has. Yeah, and I haven't looked at the comments over here. But Dalla says, yeah, Corpse Party is quite a horror game. I played it on the PSP. I don't know if this version's better than the PSP version. I've heard a lot of people say they're not sure because you could go and play it on the Vita, I'm sure. What I'm confused about is how this is coming out on the 3DS. because like we're talking about like people eating eyeballs and getting decapitated and drowning in a pool, like brutal stuff. All of course very pixelated and not really showing it, but
Mm.
not something I would ever think is on a Nintendo platform.
I think it's because it's like a 16-bit game. Like someone at Nintendo probably was like really busy that day. Someone was like, "Oh, is this game good?" Showed a couple of screenshots. They like glanced at it like, whatever." That's
Yeah.
how Corpse Party got greenlit.
No,
I guess, yeah.
I
I'm
can
just
definitely see
I'm
that.
surprised given that like Binding of Isaac they had problems like trying to get that to 3DS. So
Yeah,
I
Binding
feel
of
like that's
Isaac
kind of
isn't even that bad.
in a similar boat. Like,
Right. Yeah, like this is just gory beyond all control at times. And of course it's 16-bit, so it's a lot of visualizing it in your head. They don't have, I think the PSP had like pictures basically whenever there was a death, you would kind of see it. That's not in either of these versions, but it doesn't take out the horror element. Anyway, I've been talking about it. If you have any questions, of course, the reviews over at dualshockers.com, and you can go in the comments, and I answer every question in the comments. But let's give a few away. Can you do the giveaway thing?
I
Chris?
could do the giveaway thing.
Yeah,
Um,
I don't know how to do it. I know it's really simple.
oh yeah.
Makes me feel really bad. Ryan, have you completed any game recently that you want to talk about?
So apparently
not
Ryan wins Corpse Party.
Ryan wins Corpse
what?
Party.
Oh, it was like, I guess so. No, but I haven't really gotten the chance to play much lately, just because PAX kind of kept me busy and work especially lately. But I've been chipping away a little bit at Final Fantasy X HD on Vita is kind of what I've been working on right now. And then also, oh, actually no, sorry, I did finish a game. I finished Metro Last Light Redo over the weekend
Oh,
because
okay.
I've been wanting to play those. Yeah,
So
and
redo
really
or
enjoyed it.
redux?
Redo, I think is how you pronounce it. I'm pretty sure. I finished that. I've also been chipping away at Dark Souls, the original one. So again, I haven't had much time to play stuff lately, but that's what I'm working on. Yeah.
Right. All right, so we rolled it twice. One winner's Odge Dre. The second winner is Dalo. The third winner is
We'll get there.
is
Randy.
Randy. Okay, that's after Chris chose himself again, which he always does, by the way. I don't think it's random anymore.
It's secretly rigged, but I'm not allowed to win it. I just want you all to know that I would have.
Right. So, Randy, you're the only one who I don't know on Twitter. So make sure to whisper us, one of us, your email address via Twitch, not centrally in our ear right here. But yeah, whisper us, and we'll make sure to give you guys the code right after the show.
Dalo is letting us re-roll it because he does no longer has a computer.
Oh, how the hell are you watching this?
McDotton.
McDotton has
Congrats.
it. Congrats, McDotton. You are the third winner. All right, so our last huge segment, 8-Bit Idiot. This one's going to be kind of, I think no one's going to have a good thing to say about this one. But 8-Bit Idiot is the small segment we do where, of course, if you are a person and everyone's a person, you're going to have a bad day. Everyone has a bad day. In the gaming industry, a lot of people have bad days, often make really bad moves, really bad PR moves, and this is a way for us to highlight it very briefly and then touch on the subject in a bit of a larger context. And really, I wasn't expecting to do this segment every week. We've just been very fortuitous with people having really awful moves. But this one is from the Chinese Room. The Chinese Room are the developers behind Dear Esther and behind... Yeah, so they made Dear Esther. Oh, Everybody's Gone to the Rapture, of course. And over the weekend, GameSpot put out an article. Cyber 2077 is more ambitious than The Witcher on every single front, and then put out a promotional image of the girl doing mocap. And the Chinese Room responded, retweeted and responded saying, but just as sexist, if that image is anything to go by. Yeah, and it has a few likes, of course, but like really no one was happy about this move. Do you either of you guys played The Witcher?
I haven't started playing Witcher 3 yet. I'm trying to go through the first game and work my way to it. But I'm familiar enough, at least, to know of the series that it is there is quite a lot of nudity and sex, and so yeah, there's plenty of it in there.
All right, so there's nudity and sex, but my question is, does that really make the game sexist?
No, I've played enough of The Witcher 3 to know that that is totally wrong.
Right.
And mind you, it's not like I've played like so much of The Witcher, but like no female character in there falls into like a set archetype.
Right.
There's nothing sexist really in it, you know? It's just a dumb comment.
Yeah, right. Absolutely. Randy in the comments says, Witcher is a fucking amazing game. I imagine that's fucking, it's all out because we are a PG podcast. But yeah, I agree. I mean, I've played a decent amount of it, and by decent I mean for a normal game, not for the Witcher time. Witcher time, that's a good time would probably be about like 200 hours. But I've played a decent amount of it, and every female that I've come across has been a very strong character. At least, all the main characters. And for the nudity that I find in the game, there's also nudity on the male part, which is, I always felt everything was very balanced. There are definitely games, like if we're talking Duke Nukem or something, that's the only one that's jumping out in my head. There's definitely tones of sexism in some games where that's the point, but I think that this was them just throwing a rock at a Goliath. I think that they really have to consider the moves they make. But this was a very poor tweet, and I think a lot of people got upset by it, including me. All right, so we're gonna wrap up. What have you guys been playing lately? Let's do bullet points here. Chris.
So I have been playing Battleborn almost nonstop since its release, and I'm gonna be playing it after this again.
Right. How about you, Ryan?
I'm probably going to try to chip away again at keep going a little bit more into Final Fantasy X HD,
Right.
so I can get through that. The only other thing I am planning on playing is I do really want to play the Overwatch beta this weekend, so I'll probably jump into that. I might try and stream some of that maybe over the weekend, so we'll see how that goes. But I really want to jump in and try that game out.
Right. All right. So lately, I just finished Corpse Party, so we talked about that. But I've been playing Rocket League because you always got to play Rocket League, and my roommates just got into it, so we're redoing it again. I picked up 999 for the Nintendo DS, and that has all felt very good. I'm starting King's Quest, the new reboot version of it, and I just played through Chapter 1-3, and I'm reviewing it soon. And I mentioned it last week, I mentioned it the week before that, and I'm just really plotting and struggling through Langrisser Reincarnation Tensei and the game is as awful as the name. Don't be too surprised if you see one of the very rare like 2 out of 10s on DualShockers, but the game is one that really affords it. All right, so for upcoming games over the next week, May 5th, we've got Pocket Card Jockey coming on 3DS. That's the weird card jockey game from the makers of from Game Freak, the Pokemon people. On May 7th, we have Dex coming out on PlayStation 4. And on May 10th, I don't think that's right with Super Dungeon Bros. I just have it. We have Uncharted 4, A Thief's End, so everyone's really getting out of the way for that. And Mega Tag Mention Blanc plus Neptune versus Zombies for PlayStation Vita. And Letter Quest Grimm's Journey Remastered for PlayStation 4. Are you playing anything on this list, either of you guys?
I'm sure I'll be tempted by Uncharted.
Are you all caught up in the story? Have you played it recently?
It's been a little while, but I played all the games, so.
Right.
Yeah, I'm the same as Ryan. I mean, I'm gonna be in Disney next week, but when I come back, the Uncharted itch is gonna have to be scratched.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Chris is gonna have to try real hard to avoid the internet while you're on your trip to I mean, especially that's probably hard now because there were the whole things with advanced copies kind of getting out in the wild before release. So there's that. Although I haven't seen any leaks yet. So,
I've seen them. Yeah. No, the reason you don't see them is because I'm the one going in and clearing out the comment sections for DualShockers.
Yeah, I'm sure. Yeah. I haven't seen it yet, so I'm staying
What?
out of there for a little while.
So, Luke, you're being our Batman for Dual Shockers.
I'm taking that bullet for
Take
you guys.
it for the team. Like,
All right, so that's the end of the show. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. You can find us at Twitter, on Facebook, and on Instagram at whatever the site is /DualShockers. Just look us up. You're going to find us. If you go on YouTube, you can find us at youtube.com/DSTV Originals. To come watch, be part of the show, and chat along with us, and also get in on some of these sweet giveaways, because this week it's Corpse Party. Who knows what it's going to be next week. Join us every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. at twitch.tv/DualShockersLive, and you get the added bonus next week of not having to deal with Chris, because he's over in fucking Disney World.
Wow.
Last and certainly not least, you can come find our around-the-clock news coverage, reviews, features, editorials, all that fun stuff at DualShockers.com. We talked a lot about PAX East, and if you want some in-depth coverage of any of those games, if any of them really stood out to you, we have a ton of... You could go look in our hands-on preview section, and you could see all that. So yeah, that's everything. Thanks again. So Ryan, where can they find you?
you can find me somewhere. I'm sure you can find me somewhere.
Twitter?
No, I'm kidding. Twitter. Just my name. We fixed the names, right? It's just
We
my
did.
name
We
now.
fixed it.
Okay. Yeah, my name's down. It's down there, so you can follow me there.
Okay. And Chris?
You guys could find me on Twitter at Mr. Moxyments. And you guys should follow Dual Shockers Live, because I've been live streaming on here recently, playing a lot of Battleborn. So
Nice.
you guys could watch me and my friends do really well. Please.
All right. Well, you could go and kick his ass. Find him online, kick his ass while on stream, so we could all make fun of him.
We are currently 23-1. I will take challengers.
All right, and last but not least, you can find me at Lou Contaldi and watch me complain about video games on Twitter. So yeah, that's everything. Thanks for joining, everyone. May the 4th be with you always.
May the
I don't
4th be
get
with
that
you.
What?
Always. Always.
I don't get the reference. I'm sorry, guys. All right, so let's go into our theme song thing.